Today, on the MWHS Wildcat News. QTs donate money for the Holiday Child event. Drawing students finish up their self-portraits. Vietnam veteran Mike Spinharney talks to English classes. A senior builds his own guitar. And a PSA about staying healthy during flu season. This and more on the MWHS Wildcat News. Welcome back, Wildcats, to this week's edition of the MWHS Wildcat News. Today is December 20th, and I'm your host, Edison Geiler.
And I'm Caitlin Willard. We have a great batch of stories for you to watch this week, first of which comes from Student Council.
The group planned a school-wide Holiday Child event in conjunction with the Salvation Army, where QTs gathered enough money so students could venture off and go buy gifts for children.
Staff reporter Jordan McCarr and Assistant Sports Director Miguel Paredes report.
With the holiday season in full swing, the MWHS Student Council took part in the annual Holiday Child charity event to support and give aid to families who struggle to make ends meet during this cheerful time of the year.
About 25 years ago, Student Council started doing this at a former student of mine, Sarah Holmeyer, who wanted to do this as an event. And she did a lot with the Salvation Army at the time. So she asked, hey, is it possible we could do something as a council with all of the quality times? We have since grown dramatically in size, and that's what kind of started it, and we have been doing it ever since.
Student Council does a lot of work around the holidays and around different charities, so Holiday Child was one that we always do, and so this year we kept up with the tradition and we helped other people around the school get involved and bring toys for others around our community.
MWHS Student Council collaborated with the Salvation Army to help coordinate and make this event achievable with overall success.
Since this is our 25th year now, there isn't a lot that we have to do. It's very, very self-driven. All I have to do is contact the Salvation Army. In fact, they contact me at the beginning of the year and say, hey, are you still interested in doing it? And I say, absolutely, and I just tell them, hey, we need 120 tags. They mail them out to me, and then Student Council, we just kind of staple them and get them out to the quality time teacher. So it's actually a very low-maintenance process for what we get.
The process of preparing and getting this event ready for quality times was fairly simple and not too complex to accomplish.
I would say it takes like a couple weeks to figure out which QT is doing what and how to bring it all together and for them to get money and get the presents. And then it's just one QT where the Student Council comes down to gather all the presents for everyone, and then it'll be loaded on a truck to be taken to the drop-off.
In the past, we always just had everyone give $1 to $2, and then they always helped pick out what toy we got. I think it's really awesome that we get to help other members in our community, and then also just build up the families on kids that aren't going to get a present this year.
The inspiration behind the Holiday Child event was to simply help out as many families as possible.
The inspiration, people in need, how could we help a large number of people in our community? And I think it was as simple as that. And we kind of just adopted it, and we've been doing it ever since. Love it.
MWHS participates in many different charitable events and fundraisers throughout the year, but Holiday Child is by far one of the biggest events that seems to have everyone engaged. This has been Jordan McCoy and Miguel Paredes, signing off with the MWHS Wildcat News.
If you have seen a tarp in the art hallway, it's for the 2 drawing classes' final project. Students have been working on finalizing their self-portraits that they have been working on since November.
Features editor Logan Berggren and assistant broadcast editor Bailey Christensen talked with a few of them for further details.
Starting in early November, Mrs. Haas-Miller's drawing class began the works of their self-portraits. Unlike previous years, to obtain color and dimension, students posed in front of bright lights and a tarp.
We do a self-portrait project, and we like to shine the blue and orange lights on their faces to give different colors, but they have to practice their self-portraits first in graphite, so we teach them the strategies of drawing a self-portrait, the proportions, we teach them the vertical and horizontal grid lines, how many eyes wide is their face, where does their nose sit, their mouth sit, and shading to show form, so it's, because our faces are defined by lines, they're defined by values. So get that practice before they do just a zoom in where it's less about the proportions and more about the blending of the different values.
After finishing the graphite portrait, students were challenged with adding color in shades of orange and blue. Each student cropped in a specific feature of their face and shaded with oil pastel.
My favorite one was the oil pastels because we used color, and color is a lot more fun to work with, but it was a lot harder to blend.
Obtaining a skill even professional artists practice and struggle with is a challenge students have fought throughout this project. While drawing their portraits, students have gained knowledge over many techniques when it comes to drawing themselves and others.
Honestly, I feel like the main thing that I've learned from this drawing class is more just like the detailed skills. So like drawing, like the direction that you shade can completely change a picture. It's just stuff like that.
Any artist needs to know how to draw faces. Without anybody else around, you always have a face you can draw, whether it's taking a selfie and drawing it or looking in a mirror. But it's just sort of a standard drawing requirement that I think every art student needs to know how to do.
Make sure to look out for the finished artwork, which will be hung within the galleries around the school. Signing off, this has been Bailey Christensen and Logan Berggren.
In English teacher Patricia Knudson's Honors English 10 classes, students were able to listen to Mike Spinhardy, a guest speaker who was a veteran of the Vietnam War. On December 12th, he came to talk to 2 classes about his experiences in the conflict and educated students further about the war.
Staff reporter Chloe Parker and cartoonist Mackenzie Gonzalez had the privilege of getting to talk to him about his presentations.
On December 12th, Ms. Knudson's Honors English 10 class had the privilege of listening to Vietnam veteran Mike Spinhardy discuss his experience during his time in Vietnam.
Well, we had a nice little book by Tim O'Brien, The Things They Carried, and it's primarily about Vietnam. And Ms. Knudson, I'm guessing, has for the past couple of years wanted us to learn firsthand from people who actually experienced it, what it was like and so on, to get a comparison between the book and real life and other examples we can find.
He gave students a real-life account on the events that occurred in Vietnam in relation to the book The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien.
Well, it states in the beginning that it's pretty fictional. It's a lot of, it's real stories, sort of. They give you a real feeling, and I feel like that's kind of the same with both Mike and in the book.
In addition to his position, he discussed any additional questions students may have had.
Well, at Signal Corps, we provided all the communications in the combat areas. We ran all the combat, all the communication lines, all the line of sight communications, and so in our particular part of where we were located, and we were in what was called Lower 2 Corps. So in our particular area, we provided that for the various combat operations so they could communicate and do whatever they had to do to be effective over there. Plus just normal communications from one base to another, from one office to another. We provided all of that.
Spinhardy has been doing these kinds of presentations for the past 9 or 10 years and enjoys educating students on the Vietnam War in his first-hand account.
9 or 10 years. 9 or 10 years. Mrs. Knudson reached out to me because her husband and I worked together at IBM, and she was looking for somebody to come in and talk specifically about Vietnam because of that book, The Things We Carried. And so I thought about it, and I thought, well, I don't know. I don't want to get there and find a bunch of kids that don't really want to hear about it. But my first encounter was a bunch of eager young people that had a lot of questions and enjoyed it. And I thought, okay, this is fun. And so I've been doing it ever since. So.
This has been Mackenzie Gonzalez and Chloe Parker for the MWHS Wildcat News.
Senior Owen Barrett has been working on an incredibly unique project in his carpentry class. He is building his own guitar from scratch.
Staff reporter Connor Robb and I talked with him throughout the process. In Charles Lambert's advanced carpentry class, students have the chance to create any object they want out of wood. Many build pieces of furniture, but for senior Owen Barrett,
it's a little time-consuming, but honestly, I think it's worth it for the designs that you get from it.
He's focused on making something a little more unique.
And I've always been kind of interested with how stuff's been built, so I've watched some YouTube videos on people building guitars out of jawbreakers or epoxy resin, so I'm building it out of wood shouldn't be that bad.
He's been preparing the layout for his custom guitar since the start of the semester, and got the idea for the project when taking carpentry earlier this year.
I came up with this idea back in, I'd have to say May, when Mr. Lambert was telling us about advanced finished carpentry. He was saying that you can build whatever you want, so I figured building guitar was something I'm passionate about and I was going to use, so I figured why not.
This piece is unlike anything done before it, making Lambert unsure how to aid Bereth, leaving him to figure out the details, and also attracting the attention of other students in the class.
He's pretty independent, so he's only come to me when he's needed to come to me. A lot of the other students that don't have his confidence come to me all the time, and it's more like I'm just watching him what he's doing.
His project is very unique. It's something that no one else has done in the class, and it probably costs a lot more than everything else.
The process of building a guitar is a complex one, requiring lots of attention to detail in order to make sure everything fits together and ensure that the guitar sounds proper.
So the first thing I did was I built the neck of the guitar, which has alternating pieces of maple and walnut. That way it has that split design to it. And then I had to create the headstock for it, and it was attaching the tuning machines to it. And then the body is where it really got difficult. I chose to use the CNC machine to get machine cutting on it. So I talked to Mr. Menser, and he walked me through the steps of how to take an image and put it into Inventor so I can create the router's path for it. And at that point it was just sanding, getting the edges down, and fixing any of the pockets.
Moving past the class, Bereth hopes that he can look back on this experience as he moves towards college.
It might just be something that I hang on my wall once I get my own place, but for the time being it's a cool part of my history in high school.
But for now, Bereth just hopes to finish his creation.
Right now I just have to put all the electronics in, so pickups will go in. I have to solder it to the electronics. Then it's just fitting the pickguard and putting the other pieces back together.
For our last segment, Bailey Christensen and Logan Berggren bring you a PSA about staying healthy during the flu season.
Sick of being sick? A sneeze can shoot half a liter of mucus particles stored in the lungs into the air at around 35 meters per second, contaminating about 8 meters of air from the initial point of the sneeze. Sneezing or coughing stays on desks, doorknobs, and steel for almost 24 hours, contaminating those who touch it and then their mouths. To keep germs from infecting those around you, cover your mouth and nose, get your flu shot, and wash your hands for 30 seconds. If you do become sick, visit the nurse's office and stay home to prevent passing on the illness.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the MWHS Wildcat News.
For updates on our latest content, you can visit our Instagram at mwhs.catalyst and follow us on Twitter at mwhscatalyst. For all of our latest stories, you can visit our website at www.millerwestcatalyst.com.
See you later, Wildcats!